Now, new data from the NHS has confirmed that 1 in 6 people in England are now prescribed antidepressants. Oh dear. This is over 8 million people and shows a rise of 26% during the last 10 years. So I'm asking, have we actually become that depressed, or are doctors over-medicating us just to keep us quiet, really? I mean, giving us a tablet is cheaper than therapy, after all, isn't it? Kelvin, I mean, you, being an upbeat, sparkling type person...
True.
Yeah, obviously are not on antidepressants, are you, then?
I'm not. No. I'm not.
So why are so many people giving them?
Well, if you turn up to a doctor and you say to them, I'm feeling down in the dumps because, you know, something's happened, you know, some domestic aggro, or the kids are causing me a problem, or I got fired from a job or made redundant or something like that, it would take them about 2 seconds for the GP to say, do you need some help? And that is the code for, yes, I'm feeling pretty low in life, and here is, I will take the tablet. So I think one of the problems for a doctor is, what does a doctor say when they hear, you know, these issues connected with your mental stability? Now, why is it that we are all in a position, every family, by the way, every single family will be able to say that one of their family or two of their family are on, or either have been or are currently on it? And I know through my wider family that actually it has been quite useful, actually, funnily enough. However, my question really is this really a justifiable number? How can our country function in this way? What is it that's happened to our country? Are people trying it on? For instance, is this a prelude to, for instance, some kind of
calling in sick on Monday morning
benefit? Well, no, benefit payments. You know, and you get much more money out of health sickness than you do out of straightforward unemployment. So unemployment benefits. So you know. But what I can't get, and what I'd be very interested if any of your viewers were doctors, would be to explain why it is that their not instant reaction, but their normal reaction is to say, this will help you.
I don't think it would be that simple, because you have to meet certain markers for a doctor to identify you as in need of prescription medication for a condition. You would have to, I think, from my experience with people I've spoken to who are on them, you have to present with certain behaviours for a certain period of time for it to be a problem worthy of now getting medication. Psychotherapy might have been suggested to you for you to take advantage of that. Do you need someone to speak to? Do you have someone in the family? Do you have someone near home? All of these would probably have been explored before you get to the point. And the fact that so many people are meeting the threshold for medication,
I can contest that. I can contest that, because about 10 years ago, I went to the doctor saying I felt run down, I felt knackered, all the rest of it. I hadn't even ended my thought process, right, before I was effectively offered antidepressants. And I said, actually, funnily enough, I don't need any of that stuff. But thanks very much, anyway, for answering. I was wondering whether I could just have a blood test.
But
How about
you see
that?
The fact that you've got the personality and social situation where, when presented with medication, you could say no. Someone who then would say yes probably is emotionally in a state where they do need it. Because all a doctor can do is, when you tell them your symptoms, present you with options or what they would suggest could help, you have the agency to say no. But if you're at a point where you think, yes, I want medication, you're probably in an emotional state where you do need that medication.
Do you think there's an issue here as well, that it's cheaper and easier to prescribe a tablet than to get somebody on the waiting list for therapy? And we know sort of like social care and therapy services in this country are on their knees. We can't support people that really, really desperately need it. So do you think it's just easier for doctors now? You've got 10-minute appointments, give you some pills, go away.
Yes, I do think it does compound the problem, lack of funding. And that's why that also is one of the issues plaguing the NHS, because when you think about how much discourse exists about mental health, the infrastructure, a robustness of infrastructure doesn't exist to actually help people with mental health issues beyond the quick fix of take the medication. So hopefully statistics like this would buoy them to say, let's revisit what we're doing if you're over-medicating a population that might not need it.
But what I don't understand is it getting worse because the NHS is in such a state, Or we are genuinely, I mean, this is actually, I'm going to read this one out, so it's quite funny. James, good evening, James. Only 1 in 6, Dawn. With the Labour government, the numbers will surely rise.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. I agree with that.
And Lynn says, Dawn, mental health problems are the new bad back syndrome, and you do have to wonder, I must admit. And Maggie again. Not a lot of Keir Starmer fans in the room here. There will probably be 1 in 3 on antidepressants by the time this government have failed us. But interestingly, Adrian says they ask you first about thoughts of harming yourself. Lockdowns weren't good for us. Interesting.
See, that's the point I was making, that any reputable, responsible medical practitioner has to ask certain questions, and your responses will then give them an indication of whether you're the person who requires medication or something more.
Does anybody actually believe that, what was the number, 1 in 6?
1 in 6, yeah, absolutely.
Were so depressed by life that they should be entitled to this kind of treatment.
That's 8.7 million people in England alone.
All you have to do is look at social media. Social media is the most powerful entity that exists in society.
That's enough to anybody, to be fair.
Just look at what people say, how they say it. Why is it that we have a Gen Z, late millennials, and now Gen A, that the minute they feel an emotion, they feel the need to put on the camera and record it and put it out to the world? Because it's like what they say in psychology, when you have an external locus for self-evaluation, that's already a schism in your personality, because you find your value through other people, but other people don't know you. That already shows that you're presenting with a rather alternative mental state.
But also, you could also argue that actually social media has been very helpful in one respect, in that the youngsters now want to be totally sober around social media, and therefore they've given up alcohol. So and the alcohol, as we have discussed earlier, is often the font of all troubles. They don't want to be seen to be drunk. Look, I buy this. Social media, if you are sensitive, don't go on social media. Right, which is why it plays to me. I absolutely love it. The idea of people being vile, it makes me laugh. The idea that they're sitting there, you horrible little man.
It's not if you're sensitive. If you are human, it might affect you to varying degrees. But if anyone, the strongest-willed of people, sat in front of a computer and just had a tirade of abuse at them constantly, it would get you. There would be a chink in that armour.
Plus, no disrespect, Kelvin, but you're not exactly young anymore. And I think if you're...
Seriously? I tell you what, ageism,
to say that,
disgraceful.
But, I mean, if you're a youngster and you are seeing all the stuff that's out there and you're comparing yourself to what you see, which is not real, I can understand that. But therapy is the answer rather than pills.
It is interesting that young people of a certain age, and I was thinking really about kind of 14 to 21, I suspect, actually, if they don't see it on TikTok, it won't have happened. And that is an astonishing aspect of life.
There were certain members of Parliament who actually did their entire campaign on TikTok.
Did they? How did they do?
Very, very well.
Did they?
Nigel Farage has got one of the biggest followings on TikTok, which is considering he's not young either. To be fair. Sorry, Nigel.